HT70 can be set up with either 22mm or 15mm internal diameter, non-proprietary breathing circuits. Remember that the quality of the circuit and exhalation valve will impact the performance of the ventilator. So for the best performance, you should use a good quality circuit. We'll use a disposable J-style circuit to demonstrate breathing circuit setup. The first choice you need to make is whether or not you will use the on-airway flow sensor. The setup is very easy either way. Here is an example of how the circuit setup looks without the on-airway flow sensor in place. The main part of the circuit tubing is connected to the main flow outlet, and the smaller exhalation valve and proximal pressure lines are connected to the smaller fittings, just to the right of the main flow outlet. Notice that I have two filters installed. One is on the main flow outlet, and the other is on the proximal line fitting. Now here is an example of how it looks with the on-airway flow sensor in place. The overall circuit setup looks the same, but you must connect the flow sensor connector to the fitting on the front of the ventilator, and then place the flow sensor at the patient connection of the breathing circuit, with the blue tubing positioned towards the patient. If you are using a J circuit, the flow sensor is placed on the patient side of the Y connector. Make sure that the flow sensor tubings are in an upright position to avoid moisture accumulation in the sensor tubings when active humidity is in use. Use the 15-22mm adapter supplied with the flow sensor to attach the sensor to the patient interface or heat-moisture exchange filter as needed. When the on-airway flow sensor is plugged into the front panel of the HT70 Plus model, the ventilator will automatically recognize it, enable flow triggering, and display real-time graphics in the wave screen. It will also automatically change the monitored tidal volume and minute volume to exhaled volumes. In addition, you can then set a high tidal volume alarm to alert you if the exhaled volumes become higher than desired. The next choice you will need to make is whether you will provide the patient with passive humidity using an HME or active humidity using a heated humidifier. When using an HME without the on-airway flow sensor, you will attach the HME directly to the Y connector. For the best circuit disconnect detection by the low pressure alarm, it is recommended that you connect the proximal pressure line to a connector on the patient side of the HME, rather than to a port on the circuit Y. To do this, you will need to add an extra T-piece like this one to the patient side of the HME, disconnect the proximal pressure line from the Y connector, cap that port with the blue cap, then connect the proximal pressure line to the T-piece. When attaching an HME in conjunction with the on-airway flow sensor, you will attach the sensor to the Y connector of the circuit, then connect the HME to the patient side of the flow sensor. In this case, since you will use the exhaled volume alarm to detect disconnect, there is no reason to move the pressure line. When using the HT70 in conjunction with a heated humidifier, the breathing circuit setup uses an extra short piece of tubing. This tubing is included in the package with the J-style circuit. Instead of connecting the main tubing directly to the ventilator, you will connect the short limb of the circuit tubing from the main flow outlet of the ventilator to the humidifier. Then connect the main part of the circuit to the outlet of the humidifier. Notice that I have connected the end that has the extra pressure port to the humidifier. In this situation, you are putting active humidity into the breathing circuit. In order to keep the pressure sensing line dry, you will need to connect it to the circuit on the dry side of the humidifier rather than connecting it to the Y connector where humidity is high. Disconnect the pressure sensing tubing from the Y connector, use the blue cap to close off that port, then connect the pressure tubing to the port provided at the end of the humidifier tubing.